Today we'll be looking at Endura's online grease interceptor sizing calculator. We'll begin with an overview of the different tools the calculator offers, and then we'll work through a real-world example. The landing page for the calculator gives us the option of selecting our country. This will ensure that the correct contact information is available on the app. We also get the choice between English and French in Canada. For today's demo, we'll be selecting USA English. Once our selection has been made, we need to scroll to the bottom of the page and accept the terms and conditions. This is the calculator's main page. From here, we can choose from two different calculators to size out our grease interceptor. And there's also a quick tools section with a variety of different tools to help you make the right selection. The first tool we'll look at is the maintenance interval calculator. This tool is designed for applications that already have an interceptor installed or already have one sized out. It is used to determine how often the facility will need to have that interceptor cleaned. We'll see this tool in action during our example later on. The next tool is designed to identify the correct size of Endura grease interceptor for a given application where the GPM has already been identified. The sliding tool allows us to input the flow rate. As the number changes, so does the product number below. We can either take this product number as is, or we can hit the next step button below. You'll see this button appear at the end of every tool that we use on the calculator, as well as at the end of the calculators. The next step button takes us to the maintenance interval calculator, where we would determine the frequency at which this interceptor in particular needs to be cleaned out for the job it's installed in. The last tool we'll look at is sizing by known DFU. This is used to generate an interceptor size based on DFUs or drainage fixture units. Typically, DFUs are not used to size HGIs, but in some applications, all we have to go off is a DFU number. It should be noted that this conversion uses a manufacturer's formula, as there is no direct comparison for DFUs to GPMs, so some variability is inevitable. Again, we have a sliding tool that allows us to input our set number of DFUs. The equivalent flow rate changes accordingly, as does the part number. So now we'll get into the calculators themselves. We'll start by looking at the sizing by flow rate calculator, where we'll work through an example. This calculator utilizes the industry standard formula for sizing HGIs and is the most accurate and recommended method of sizing any hydromechanical interceptor. For the example we're going to work through, we'll say that our restaurant is a typical bar and grill open from lunch to dinner. The restaurant seats 150 and has a takeout menu that usually generates an additional 25 meals a day. The kitchen has the following fixtures that all need to be hooked up to the grease interceptor. A 3-compartment sink where each bowl is 12 by 14 by 16 inches. A hand sink that's 11 by 11 by 8 inches. 4 total floor drains. A dishwasher with a manufacturer rated discharge of 5 GPM. And a pre-rinse sink that's 12 inches by 14 inches by 12 inches. With that fixture list in mind, we need to select that we have sinks, need to add a dishwasher, and include additional appliances and drains. We get the opportunity to name all of our fixtures so we can keep track of the inputs. So we'll start with the 3-compartment sink. The dimensions of which were 12 by 14 by 16. And there are 3 bowls total. For drain period, the system will default to 1 minute. It's always advised that we use a 1-minute drain down time to ensure we don't undersize the grease interceptor. A 2-minute drain time is only used under certain circumstances and never if there is an indirect connection above the grease interceptor. Now we have several other sinks to add to this application, so I'm going to click the Add Sink button. We end up with the same page as we just previously filled out. So we'll do the same thing for the hand sink. The dimensions of that were 11 by 11 by 8 with only a single bowl. Again, our drain down time is set at 1 minute. We have one last sink, so we'll go through the same process for the pre-rinse. That was 12 by 14 by 12 and again, only a single bowl. This is the end of our sink input, so we're going to hit the next button. On the next page, we're shown the options for dishwasher input. We have the choice between a gravity dishwasher and a pumped dishwasher. The difference between the two is the information we'll put into the system. A gravity dishwasher manufacturer will provide discharge flow rate data in racks per hour and gallons per rack, whereas a pumped dishwasher manufacturer will give us the discharge flow rate in GPM. So for our example, we know that the dishwasher output is 5 GPM. So we're going to select pumped dishwasher and deselect gravity dishwasher. We'll hit next, and we'll put in that information. This is the last input page. This is for any other appliances or drains that don't fit the previous categories. Floor drains are the most common fixtures in this category. They're usually rated at 4 GPM if not receiving a direct discharge from a fixture. And we have 4 total floor drains in this application at 4 GPM each, so that's a total of 16 GPM. I have the option to add additional fixtures if there were any. For this application, all we have is the floor drains, so I'll hit next. Our total drainage load appears at the top of the page, followed by the grease interceptor capacity that's required, and then the part number for the Endura grease interceptor. We'll need an XL75 for this job, even though we're only slightly over 50 GPM. We don't want to cause any drainage issues or backups, so we always end up sizing up and never down for a grease interceptor. We have the option to save the summary as a PDF. This will open a new window in the browser. If we scroll all the way down, we'll see the summary of input, which is basically going over all the fixtures that we just put into the system. Now we have the opportunity to see the maintenance interval calculator in action. If we click Next Step, we'll open up that tool. And this is where we need input from the actual restaurant. The system relies on an estimated number of meals, including takeout, as well as the type of cuisine served. So for our bar and grill, we'll say that they turn over their 150 tables once a day, plus the 25 takeout meals and an extra 75 to account for the hours in between those meals, giving us a total of 400 meals per day. Our restaurant does use flatware, so we'll check that off. And the last thing we have to do is choose which type of restaurant we are from a set list. In this case, we're Class C. Based on the information we've given the system, our cleaning frequency is once every 25 days. Now, if that's too short a period for us, we have 2 options. The first is we can add another interceptor in series, so one right after another. If we add another 75 GPM, it gives us a 50-day cleaning frequency. The other option is to upsize the grease interceptor to the next no-meal size, or 100 GPM. It is advised that we only increase the size of the grease interceptor by 1 no-meal size. Oversizing a grease interceptor can result in the generation of extremely harsh acids and gases that can be not only detrimental to the environment, but also anyone who has to service that unit when it comes time. But we see that we get an extra 22 days by going up 1 interceptor size. Once again, we have the option to print out a PDF summary, and if we scroll down, we can see the calculations that went into this. Let's circle back to the home page. The last calculator is the sizing by DFU and flow rate calculator. Now again, this calculator should only be used if it is not possible to solely size based on flow rate because of the variability between converting DFUs to GPM. The inputs for this calculator are very similar to the one we just went through, with the addition of the DFU section, where we have 2 options. We either have a known DFU or we need to calculate the DFU. We either have a known DFU or we need the system to calculate the DFU value. So I'll click known DFU first, and I'll include volume-based fixtures. This page prompts me for the total number of DFUs for my application, where I would just enter in a number. The next page that comes up is the exact same flow rate calculation page we just saw, so we would go through that process again. If I select the other option and ask the system to calculate the DFUs, I get this page where I would have to enter in each fixture and its own DFU value. And I can add fixtures as necessary. Once I hit next, it takes me again to the volume fixture entry. That concludes our demo of Endura's online grease interceptor sizing tool. At any point, you can get our contact information from the Contact tab at the bottom of the page. If you ever have any questions, we're happy to help.